When Deshaun Watson came out of college, many scouts viewed him as a high potential prospect based on his upside. They said that his leadership, his athleticism, and his production at Clemson made him worthy of a first-round pick. However, on the opposite side, many were very concerned about his inconsistency. They argued that his lack of arm strength, his hit-or-miss accuracy on all three levels of the field, and his confusing decision-making at times were reasons enough as to why he shouldn't get a first-round grade. Well, clearly those people in that latter group have been proven wrong. In 4 short seasons, Watson has already developed into a top-tier quarterback. It's in my strong opinion that he's still very underrated. To start this breakdown, I want to look at one of my favorite throws so far in the season. It came in Week 11 against the Patriots midway through the first quarter. The Texans are lining up an empty set shotgun. Meanwhile, the Patriots have a single high safety deep. First, I want you to look at the defender at the top of your screen. That is number 59 linebacker Terrace Hall, who's lining up directly across from the running back that is split outside. This is a dead giveaway that the Patriots are playing man coverage. The other thing I want you to pay close attention to is the alignment of the 2 defenders at the bottom of your screen. They both have outside leverage on their respective receivers. With the routes now drawn on your screen, you can see that the Texans were running a form of a switch concept meant to beat man coverage. Ideally, Stephon Gilmore will get trapped behind the rub, and this will give Brandon Cooks a free release of the numbers. Now, in order to counter these exact situations, the Patriots like to run a man coverage technique called banjo. Banjo is an assignment meant to handle switch releases like this one. What will happen is that the up defender, or Stephon Gilmore in this case, will try to disrupt both the routes of the receivers. His goal is to make it harder for them to get a clean release down the field. However, the down defender, or JC Jackson on this play, has to be ready to take that downfield threat. If he doesn't, then the receiver that goes deep will have an opportunity up the numbers. That's exactly what happened here. After the snap, Will Fuller set his rub while Brandon Cooks ran seamlessly behind him on his switch. He stayed close to Fuller, and then he accelerated down the field. Look at JC Jackson now on your screen. He's already behind on the route. Even though this was a definite possibility going to this play, he wasn't ready for it and he waited too long to get depth. He didn't flip his hips until Cooks was even with him. From the backfield, Deshaun Watson saw this all in real time. He threw a bullet pass to Cooks up the seam, and he hit him at the 45-yard line. Cooks caught it, continued down the field, and he finished the play for a 44-yard gain. This is one of my favorite throws of Watson from the season simply due to how quickly he pulled the trigger. He recognized the coverage instantly, and then he made a decisive and accurate throw up the seam. If he threw the ball more inside, there's a chance that the safety could have destroyed Brandon Cooks. Watson's placement upped the numbers, it allowed his receiver to gain more yards after the catch. This was just an excellent throw, and it really illustrates the high-level traits that Watson has. Before we dive into the next part of this breakdown, I want to give a huge shout out to Hellofresh for sponsoring this week's video. Hellofresh is here to make eating better and easier. No grocery stores, no stressful meal planning, just everything you need to prepare a wholesome and delicious meal all delivered to your door. I honestly have no idea why I've waited so long to try it, but trust me, it was definitely worth it. This week, my wife and I tried the barbecue pork burgers, and they were mouth-watering good. The produce was fresh and had a ton of flavor, the meat was portioned perfectly with plenty for both of us to enjoy, and the recipe was so easy to follow, it made the entire experience effortless. All their meals, just like this one, can be finished in just about 30 minutes. Now, not only was everything delicious and easy, but what honestly took the experience to the next level was just how flexible they are to fit your lifestyle. You can easily change your delivery days, you can add extra lunches or dinners to your orders, and in general, HelloFresh just makes the process so simple that I strongly recommend you give them a try. If you go to hellofresh.com and use my code GOLD80, you can get $80 off across 5 boxes, including free shipping on your first box. Again, go to hellofresh.com and use my code GOLD80 to get $80 off across 5 boxes, including free shipping on your first box. As I mentioned at the start of this video, some of the things that people were concerned about were his arm strength, his accuracy, and his inconsistent decision-making in college. As far as arm strength goes, Watson threw for 49 miles per hour at the combine. Many made a big deal about this and claimed he lacked the necessary arm strength of a franchise quarterback. Personally, this wasn't something I was as concerned with since his footwork was an absolute mess in college. He would routinely throw off his back foot or throw jump passes when he didn't need to, and since he didn't steady his feet and bring his hips through the throw, this would leave the ball short. To me, his velocity, or lack of velocity in college, was more of a function of poor mechanics than anything else. Through my film study, this was the first thing that really stood out to me. He's really gotten more consistent at shifting the pocket with concise footwork to set up his throws. This has led to greater velocity. It also has led to greater accuracy as well. Since he has a solid base for his throws, he has really improved at consistently hitting all 3 levels of the field. Now, sometimes he'll still throw behind a receiver, but generally speaking, he's still pretty accurate. This can also be seen in his completion percentage over expectation. He's in 4th in this metric, and he's improved in pretty much every year since he's entered the league. One of the other things that he's really improved at is decision making. I mentioned that he made some really confusing decisions in college, like he wouldn't see double covered receivers or he would get baited into throwing poor throws. This rarely happens to him now. Sure, there is the occasional misread or poor throw that happens to every quarterback out there, but he's clearly gotten better at reading defenses more quickly and making better decisions overall. What goes along with this trait is that I think Watson has drastically improved as a pure pocket passer. Many believed when he came out that he was more of a play-action bootleg type of guy where you had to cut the field in half. But that's 100% not him. He's a really impressive thrower from the pocket. He's very quick to move and react, he'll sense pressure and will step forward, and he's very decisive with the football, going through all of his progressions quickly while having the vision to see the entire field. Now, the one thing that I felt like he was a bit inconsistent at college that I still see occasionally is how he pairs his legs to create plays. At times, I think his eyes will drop as he's looking to escape a collapsing pocket. Again, this doesn't happen all the time, and it happens far less than it did in college, but I feel like he had some missed opportunities if he only kept his eyes in the right place. For example, in his game against the Lions, the Texans started by lining up with the trips look on the right. Meanwhile, the Lions had one safety deep with their cornerbacks lining up heads up across their receivers. This is a pretty big tell that Lions are in man coverage. On this play, Detroit was in cover 1. Now, against cover 1, a post route from the slot can be lethal, especially against a defender with outside leverage. Watch number 24 closely. He covered this entire play horribly. He widened further outside, even though his receiver never actually committed to breaking in that direction in the first place. The receiver literally put his head down and sprinted from point A to point B, breaking at the 45-yard line. Number 24, on the other hand, just kept drifting further outside. Meanwhile, the single high safety kept getting deeper and deeper. This is what created a giant hole between the left hash and the numbers that I think Watson should have seen. If he saw this in real time instead of sensing the pressure, this could have been a 30-yard gain. However, instead of stepping up in the pocket while looking down the field, he unfortunately missed it. Now, I do understand that he felt pressure off the right side. I'm not saying that this is easy or that he should have had blind trust in the right side of his offensive line. What I am saying is that this is one of those plays where I think Watson did leave yards on the field. If he anticipated this wide receiver had clear inside leverage, saw that the cornerback played this horribly, this could have been a big play. Moving on, one of my bigger takeaways is I went through the Texans film from this season, and the main reasons why they aren't winning that many games has to do with the rest of this team. Somebody always seems to be letting this team down. There will be the occasional drop that could have been a crucial conversion on 3rd down, there is poor run blocking that allowed the running back to get blown up in the backfield, and plays like this one where the offensive line allowed a sack on a 3-man rush. In this situation, and only rushing 3, a defensive lineman should not win this quickly. Yes, there were 5 defenders in a bare front initially, and that's what created this one-on-one opportunity, but the right guard shouldn't have been beaten this quickly. On top of that, after the right tackle knew he didn't have his assignment anymore, he should have been looking to help. That obviously didn't happen, and Watson was down on the ground quickly. What's interesting is that even with making mistakes like in this last play, the Texans still have a top 10 offense. Like, you can look at Pro Football Focus grade and they are 7th overall, their offensive line is ranked roughly average at 16th in pass blocking efficiency. In other metrics like DVOA, their offense is ranked 11th, and even looking at metrics like expected points added or EPA, they are 7th in the NFL in that one. Now, what about Watson? Watson, as we've already talked about, is really good. He's 4th overall in EPA, his completion percentage over expected is good for 4th, his PFF passing grade is 4th as well, and he's also 3rd in adjusted net yards per attempt as well. Honestly, I could go on and on with more stats and figures, but the fact remains is that Deshaun Watson is far from the problem. In aggregate, really, this offense really isn't that big of a problem either. Yes, they did have a poor play here and there, and their game against Cleveland was just awful, but that happens to even the best teams. That's not really the reason why they're consistently losing games this season. The problem is on the other side. Their defense, in pretty much every single metric out there, is a steaming pile of garbage. They're bottom 3 according to Pro Football Focus, they're bottom 3 in expected points allowed, they're bottom 5 in yards allowed per play, in DVOA they're bottom 10, and they even allow the longest time possession per drive to opposing offenses as well. Simply put, they allow teams to run all over them, they allow them to run down the clock, and they also allow teams to shred them through the air as well. It's a horrible combination. This is a big reason why the Texans typically play from behind and why Watson has to create for this team. Now, what makes matters worse, and I really hate to kick a horse when it's down, but their future really isn't that bright either. Yes, they have a franchise quarterback, but they've been horribly mismanaged over the past few years. Trading away DeAndre Hopkins for a running back was just awful. They don't have a first or second round pick next year, and even their projected cap space is negative as well. Sure, some of that does have to do with the lowered cap space because of the pandemic, but the point I'm making is pretty simple. No matter how you slice it, it's going to take a while to fix this team. And on top of that, they really don't have the resources to do it. So overall, and the TLDR of this video is pretty much the following. The Texans as a team are what's holding Deshaun Watson back. For people that want to point to win-loss records and say that Watson is overrated, I promise you that you are 100% wrong. Watson, like we've already discussed, and by pretty much every single metric out there, is a top 5 quarterback. Even if he's not Patrick Mahomes, and frankly nobody is, Watson is still really good. He's a certified franchise quarterback that was 100% worth his new contract. He's gotten better every single season since he's entered the pros. Hopefully, if the Texans finally figure out their own mess while getting a new head coach that'll cater to his skill set, Watson will soon be recognized as one of the best. Honestly, if it wasn't for his defense, I guarantee you that he'd be a front runner for MVP this season. Yes, he's having that good of a season right now. It's time we recognize what he's doing for this awful team and give him the recognition that he deserves. Well, that's all I have for you in this one. I just want to say thank you so much for watching and make sure you subscribe to my channel below. If you want to support this channel directly, feel free to follow the link to my Patreon account as well. Thanks again, and for my latest updates, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel R. Gold.